Oh, hey guys, it's Alan, a Boston fan. And today I just need to show off some recent tobacco card pickups. Shout out to Peter B with his Tobacco Card Tuesday. This isn't meant to be that, but I've got some really nice tobacco cards that I've picked up for my Red Sox and tobacco card run that I'm working on. And I just want to show them off, give you a little bit of story about the players or why I chose these particular cards. The first one I have is probably the best one. And it is for the Boston, I don't know what they were called at the time, Bean Eaters or Doves, but it is of Bill Dolan. You can see there's a little paper loss there and a little bit of tobacco standing up there, but otherwise it's a very clean card in person. The green is great. All the registration is great other than that small paper loss, which honestly doesn't bother me one bit. I think it's a beautiful card. For all these, I paid $50 or less, which, again, super steals for something so old and something so, I don't know, majestic. But Bill Dolan is a borderline Hall of Fame player, and he's getting more and more kind of talk about his Hall of Fame candidacy. He's currently the player with the highest WAR that's not in the Hall of Fame. He had a 75.3 WAR if we use advanced stats on his career. When he retired, he had the most games played ever in Major League Baseball. He's holder of the fourth longest hitting streak ever. He had a 42-game hit streak, and it's the longest by a right-handed batter. And he was in the top 10 of most offensive categories at the time he retired, which was around 1911. I didn't look it up specifically. The stat organization SABR voted him in 2012 as the most overlooked 19th century player. And in 2013, with the Veterans Committee, he fell 2 votes shy of making the Hall of Fame. He didn't get a lot of recognition in the 1930s when the Hall of Fame started, mostly because there were a whole ton of stars from the teens, 20s, and 30s to look at. And so he kind of missed out, but I would argue that he is right up there. I think he's got over 500 stolen bases. I didn't look too closely. He had over 350 twice. Great player in his own right, great player of his time, and he's a potential future Hall of Famer. So to get that for $50 was an absolute steal, even with the condition. Next up is a New York American card of Neil Ball, who had a pretty unremarkable career in total. I love the image on this card, the New York standing up, the hat, the glove, the crouch stance. It's creased, but again, I'm not condition sensitive to these cards. They're 120 something years old. This is the original printing, 150 Piedmont. But I picked him up because he was a member of the 1912 Red Sox, who won the World Series the first year in Fenway Park. And he is also historically the first player ever to turn an unassisted triple play, which he did on July 19th, 1909. So there's a bit of baseball history for Neil Ball. Glad to add that. That'll go in my display. With the 1912 Red Sox, Bill Dolan will probably go what I'm envisioning the bottom row of just other notable T206s or tobacco cards that I wanted to add to my collection. Next up is Dick Hoblitzel. So this one came a little bit creased. Piedmont 350, but registration is absolutely beautiful on this card. It's kind of a goofy image. It's him on the Reds. I kind of love that about it. You show him here catching the ball. He was a member of the 1915, 1916, and 1918 Red Sox. I don't think he played the 1918 World Series, but he did play in the 15 and 16 World Series, winning those championships. And in the 1915 World Series, he hit .313 against the Phillies. And Red Sox won the World Series all 3 of those years, so he was a member of 3 of those World Series teams. So I wanted to add him, and he has the nice T206 here. Again, registration on this is great. Creases are kind of whatever for T206s, for me at least. I expect them to be somewhat worn and damaged as they are so old. And yeah, I got a great price on it. Next up is Jack Barry. So this is a Philadelphia A's card. Nice blue background. A little bit dark on his face, but overall pretty nice portrait image. Piedmont 350 back. Most of mine are Piedmont. I don't really go for the backs. I would like to own different backs at some point, maybe a polar bear, but again, it's the back of the card. I'm not too concerned about that. Jack Barry was famously part of Connie Mack's $100,000 infield that he put together. They won pennants in 1910, 1911, 1913, 1914, winning 3 World Series at the time, 1910, 1911, 1913. Part of that infield was Stuffy McGinnis at first, Eddie Collins at second, and Frank Home Run Baker at third base. He was the shortstop, and part of that famous early infield of Connie Mack's. Then he came over to the Red Sox in 1915 and promptly won a pennant in the World Series in 1915 and 1916. He didn't play in either of those World Series, interestingly enough, or at least in the I have my notes, 1916 World Series he didn't play, but I don't think he played in either of them, but he was the starting shortstop. So in total, he won 5 rings. He was all over the 19-teens decade, winning and part of 6 pennant-winning teams in those 10 years, which is pretty incredible. He was also a player-manager for the Red Sox in 1917. They didn't do so well that year, and so he was let go, and he was not part of the team in 1918. But loving adding, the portrait cards are growing on me, and he was a pretty significant player in the early days, so really glad to add him in with that lot. And so actually I got all 4 of those for $200 from a seller on Facebook, and I thought that was a fantastic deal. And he, if you priced it out, that was priced higher, but on average each one was $50. So I thought that was great. But I've also picked up some other cards since then, not in the same deal. This one is my first minor leaguer of the T206 set. It is of Steamer Flanagan. When I was going through my initial run of T206 and just looking at the checklist, his name stood out to me. And so I wanted to pick him up, or at least he was on my list. Steamer Flanagan just sounds like a classic old school baseball name, just so random. But in looking him up, he actually played in Northampton, Massachusetts in semi-pro baseball, which is a town near where I went to college. And I went to college at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. And if you wanted to go out for a nice dinner or go shopping, you went to Northampton. So it was just kind of a local tie to me that I kind of thought that was really neat that he actually played semi-pro ball in Northampton. There's no semi-pro ball there now. So it harkened back to those old days of baseball. So I wanted to get a nice example, another Piedmont back. And this came up for about $40 on eBay, and I jumped on it. And this will go in the bottom row of my display when that is ready to be done. Yeah, just a local example of a player. He played 1 or 2 seasons for Brooklyn, I believe. Didn't do much in the major leagues, but he has a little bit of personal history with me playing in Northampton, Massachusetts. The next card is a great example, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think I got it from Baseball Card Exchange. It almost looks not real, but I'm very confident that it is based on the seller. And it is of Heine Wagner, and he's got 2 versions of this. One bat on left shoulder, the other bat on right shoulder. Bat on left shoulder is the only one that has Boston showing. The other one's a blank jersey. So this is the one I preferred. I've been waiting for a copy. Piedmont 150. The back is so clean. There is the crease in it, but the front is also, it's got its original, kind of glossy finish to it. If you can see, I don't know if I can get it to show, but it's just like the original kind of whatever you would call it is still on the card. It's in great condition. It's got the old card smell, which is also great. And Heine Wagner, obviously it's pictured in a Boston uniform. He was captain of the 1912 World Series champion Red Sox. He was also on the 1915, 1916, and 1918 Red Sox World Series teams. Him and Harry Hooper were the only 2 players to be on all 4 of the 19-teens Red Sox World Series championship teams, though he didn't play in the World Series in 15, 16, or 18. Don't know why, but he didn't. And Heine Wagner still ranks 5th all-time in Red Sox stolen bases. The Red Sox are notoriously a slow team throughout history. They built for power and home runs and neglected speed until 2004 when they picked up Dave Roberts, and we know what happened there. So he still ranks 5th all-time in the team's stolen bases. And this, despite creases, it's just a beautiful card. The registration, amazing. So I'll have to get a one touch for this and display this. And this will happily go in my display case. And we can just lean it up right there. And then lastly, I picked up a T205 I had this player listed. He's got a T206 in a Red Sox uniform, but I really don't like the picture. And it is Harry Lord. It's of him swinging, and it's just, the picture just doesn't resonate with me very well. So when I was able to pick up this T205, we'll take it out of the wrap here. I decided to jump on it. The price was, of course, right, as everything, under $50. And I was like, yes, sir. So he wasn't on any championship teams. But shout out to Greg at Midlife Cards. He collects all the Yankees captains. And although I don't plan on collecting all the Red Sox captains, he was captain of the team in 1910. And that kind of just made me interested in picking up that little piece of Red Sox history. So here he's pictured with the White Sox, and I think this is just a much better looking card than his T206 personally. Because of the swinging pose and it's on the Red Sox, that typically goes for a decent premium. If I can ever get a nice one cheaply, I'd gladly add the T206. But for now, the T205 is going to be the card that goes into my Red Sox display as one of those Red Sox pioneers. No, I didn't note anything else of his career. He wasn't a great player by any means. He wasn't on any Red Sox champions, but he was captain in 1910, which is significant in its own right. And glad to capture that in a tobacco card. So these are my 6 most recent tobacco editions. I don't want to pick up Dolan because he might be a Hall of Famer. And again, the tobacco bug has just bitten me. I love picking up these cards. Each one feels like a piece of history. Each is unique in its own right. And if you've got, I've said this a million times, but if you've got a team that started, especially an American League team, but any team that was existing then, I invite you to go down that rabbit hole. You can put together such an awesome collection without having to go after the Hall of Famers, because there's so much history there that you can read about and put together. And you can put together a really cool collection that isn't going to break your bank necessarily, could be meaningful to you. And, you know, you hold these cards and they are just so cool. It's just so neat, you know. And I went into, a couple of years ago, I didn't own any tobacco cards. Last year I bought my second, and now I have like 20. And they're just so awesome. I can't wait to get a display and put all these together in one collection. Just super stoked to own them. So yeah, those are my tobacco pickups. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear what kind of tobacco cards you like, or if you're planning on doing the foray, or if you started to fall down that rabbit hole. It's so much fun, guys. Collecting these cards is just amazing. So I appreciate you guys following me on my journey. I know a lot of people kind of have been following as I build this Red Sox kind of display that I want to put together, and trying to tell early Red Sox history through the tobacco cards that were out at the time. I really appreciate you guys viewing. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But as always, guys, keep collecting, keep having fun. I'll talk to you again later. Adios, amigos.